Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello and welcome back. I'm your hostess, Kristen, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Amber and Cindy.
Hey.
Hello.
And if this is your first time joining us, we're glad you're here. If you're returning, welcome back. We are coming up here on the end of the year, and we're talking about goals. You know, that's what we do.
That's all we do, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
You're probably getting tired of it.
Never.
Goals. No.
Never.
No. Goals
So-
are important.
Right. So this is the time of year, not just for goals, but for reflection. So when you come to the end of the year, we look back at all the past that we've had this year
The
and
progress,
even
yeah.
previous years, you know,
Yeah.
the progress made, the memories had, the new
The
friendships
obstacles.
developed and obstacles overcome, or the obstacles that have yet to be overcome. And so today, kind of what we're talking about is that reflection part of the goals portion of what we do every year. So if you are new to listening, you can jump right in. At any time. If you want to go back, we are kind of like touching base on an episode that came out on June 28th. That was goals, like revisiting mid-month kind of thing. And then we had some other episodes, previous seasons around this time of year.
There is a playlist on YouTube that has all of the Goals Girls.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're all
so
listed in one playlist.
If you wanted to start from the beginning, you could, but you could definitely jump into this jump rope with us today.
Absolutely.
And if this is something that you're really interested in, we got lots going on, not just the reflection part today, but we're also looking forward to as we talk about goals today. So I'm really excited to kind of tap into the conversation. So I did want to just jump right in to recap what we said in June. When we were talking about our mid-month or mid-year check-in, we were... when I listened to it, I could see that we were struggling with our goals in some areas, but we were also really championing them in other areas. And I kept hearing us say that we were struggling, but that we were doing good. And I'm like, why do we keep saying we're struggling?
But
Like,
I think that everybody struggles with their goals at some point.
Yeah.
I do.
I know, but
I think that's part of the process.
that word is really harsh.
Yeah.
Considering what all we accomplished,
Well-
even at that mid-month. And
Well,
we were
yes.
still new with our goals.
But I don't know. I think it's accurate at the time because at the time that
You
you're
feel
struggling, you
like you're
feel like
struggling.
it's hard and you can't. Now, looking back at it in retrospect, you go, well, that really wasn't that bad. I overcame that, or I worked around that. I either went over it, through it, or around it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it stops you. So it is a struggle, and so I don't think that word is wrong. I just hope that it doesn't stop you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I guess I just imagine like struggling is like wrestling. And with some goals, I didn't feel like I was wrestling, even though I was like, I'm struggling, but I wasn't wrestling with my goal. It was just sitting there on the table waiting for me to pick it up.
Right.
So,
To me, I think struggling.
Might have been struggling
You're
with
talking
myself.
about struggling like wrestling, and I think of struggling like my goals are a big heavy box, and I've got to get this big heavy box from point A to point B, and so my struggle sometimes is doing it by myself and trying to find the right way to push that box, and it's hard. So that's a struggle. So
that's really funny, though, because you say that like it's a big box. And one of the things that we talked about in that last episode was like getting stuck in like the little things, the little
Yeah,
tasks. And that
yeah.
would literally be like taking each thing out of the box and carrying it to the finish line one
Right.
piece at a time.
Which is
would
one
be
way
smart.
to get,
Yeah.
But there's also, get a dolly and put it under the box and move it, or get someone to help you and move the box. So there's a lot of ways, but sometimes we get stuck in that struggle where we're
We're just
blindsided.
staring at the box like, oh my god,
You're looking at the box. I have to move the whole box, and you can't see past those blinders. And so it is a struggle. The struggle is not the moving of the box. The struggle is seeing beyond, taking the blinders off and seeing beyond it. And I think that's where we were at that point, because you talked about, we were struggling, but we were still making progress. And I'll remind people of something that Allie Edwards, I'm going to quote her all the time, says often, that small progress is still progress. So it doesn't matter if you moved the box an inch or a foot, you still moved the box. It doesn't matter if you had to take everything out of the box to move it. So you have to take the blinders off and see it from every perspective and every available, think outside of the box.
I was trying not to say that.
I know, but really you do. You have to think outside the box when you're having trouble moving the box. So
awesome. Well, so since then, are there any goals that you surprised yourself that you were struggling with, that you were able to move that box?
There were some struggles there that are still there. For me, some of my goals have not progressed at all. And they made like some small progress, but they did not
have the impact that you were expecting by the end of the year.
And like some of them I thought I would be done with by now. And I'll back up to a few of those in a minute, but one of them that I wanted to do, one of my goals was to kind of clean my house and reorganize my office space craft room here. And I think I talked about that a little bit on that podcast. I unfortunately did not have the time to go back and listen to it, but I believe I talked about the progress I made on that, because it was one of my goals, but it wasn't one of my high priority goals. It was a kind of lower down from some of my other goals. But I realized in the process of trying to get through the bigger goals that working on this room was something that needed to happen right away. So I stopped working on one of the other goals in order to totally redo this room. I pulled out everything that wasn't mine or that didn't belong here and moved it out to my garage. And that was at the suggestion of my therapist, because we were talking about things that I had moved into this room that belonged to my mother and other people. My taxes were in here, a lot of other things. And it was very difficult for me to work in this room because it was so crowded, and I kept looking at all these projects that needed to be done, and I was making no progress on them. And so her question to me was, why are those things in your office? And I was like, well, I don't know. That's just where they landed. And she was like, well, just get them out of there, And I was, it's really looking at the box from the other angle. Why is that box in my way? Move it. So I moved all those things out of here into the garage, and I tore down my work table, my workstation, and my storage, moved it all out to the garage, and built a new workstation and storage in here, and have slowly brought things back in. And I'm not completely through bringing things back in, because I told myself I could only bring it in as I either needed to use it or B, had a place to put it when I was done with it. So The cubbies in my storage are starting to fill up a little bit, but they're not completely full. And I'm just slowly organizing things by how often I use them, how much I need to get into the, a box, or how often I use a product or whatever. So that project actually took precedence over some of the other stuff that were supposedly more important, but it was so urgent that it needed to be done right then. So I made really good progress on that. And I think you can both attest to the fact that this room is a lot easier to work in now, more comfortable to work in. There's more room for the mics and the everything else, now that I've done that. But it kind of came at the cost of some of the other projects that I was supposed to be working on that still haven't gotten done. And some of those got waylaid even further by other projects that happened along the way, and my husband's illness and some other things, that just kind of took precedence. So that the garage is still full of stuff, and I haven't sorted through it. And my bookkeeping is still seriously behind. But, yeah, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I have to give myself a little bit of grace because there's been a lot going on in my life, in our family.
Yeah.
And those things will get taken care of as they get taken care of. And I'm working on it, and I'm not going to beat myself up over it. So there are projects and goals that I made progress on, and there are goals and projects that I didn't make any progress on. And then there's some that I made a little. So, yeah.
What about you, Amber?
I was just sitting here thinking, what did I make progress on?
Well, you had
you
a
moved
major
in.
progress.
You moved in.
Yeah, I moved in.
Your goals were to move in,
Get married.
get married, and lower your cholesterol.
Okay, well, about to get married. I moved in, not unpacked, but
Still.
I moved in. I'm slowly unpacking. I want to say one of the major house goals that we just accomplished was cleaning out the attic, because there was still stuff from the previous owner up in the attic. So getting up in there,
Been there, done that.
and
Right.
throwing all of that stuff down and dragging it out to the curb. That was a major house goal. And then setting up the spare bathroom, moving all of the cat stuff out of the bathroom and turning it into an actual bathroom. Those are two major goals. We still have a lot of work to do, but those are two good things that getting married, yeah.
That's been
Yeah.
a lot of, there's been a
That's a
lot
lot
of
of
projects and a lot of work involved in that.
A lot and lots of hours and hours and hours of work getting there. It's finally about to happen.
Whee!
And then lowering my cholesterol.
I like that sigh.
Sigh.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
It is. The
Yeah.
number doesn't
Maybe-
just magically change.
I know,
It's the
maybe-
lifestyle changes.
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much.
And it comes in little bits. Yeah.
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 So slowly lifestyle changes. Hopefully I can get that lowered. I have a physical coming up in a couple of months, so hopefully there will be some progress there and I can check back in on that.
Yeah.
But a lot of work stuff has happened, and a lot of backpedaling on all of the progress that I made over the summer.
Yeah.
So, it's I live a stressful life as a teacher in Texas.
Well, and I can relate to the backpedaling, because there was a lot. One of my goals was to lose some weight, I feel like every step forward, I take 2 steps backwards, sometimes. But in that progress, not long after we came back from Marfa, Kristen and I both joined a gym, and I started going to the gym, and, I've been going 2 or 3 times a week, and it hasn't made a huge dent in my weight, but it has made, it was one of the steps in that goal was to become more physically fit and to be, to start an exercise routine. So,
right.
It was a step.
So Amber, in our recording that came out in June, you were talking about the health goal, and you listed off like 15 different things, and it's, the quintessential like things you must do to be healthy, right? It was like sleep more, drink more water, exercise, eat healthier, blah 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 blah. And we talked about
we talked about trying to do any of that.
Right. When we talked about trying to juggle all of them at one time, and how like doing one of them can be like that snowball. That's what you referred to. It was a snowball of making like the other things, because you said, like, if my cholesterol isn't good and I'm not healthy, then I can't do any of my other goals, because if you're not healthy,
health is key.
Right.
Health is the ultimate key.
It inspired me because we were, recapping our goals, or, reevaluating, and the point of the reevaluation is to analyze, make an adjustment, act, and then analyze again. And I was like, really struggling with my health goal. That one, I have had a health goal since I was like 8 years old, to like lose weight or whatever, since I was a kid.
Well, it's like always an ongoing struggle. That's just
right.
One of those
But
things.
that's what I'm saying. It's always been a goal, but I never really make a lot of traction on it. So I was like, I got to do something different, because you can't always do what you've always done.
You can't get where you want to go doing the same thing you always
over and
did.
over again. Yeah. Exactly. So I was like, I got to do something different. So I decided to stop trying to juggle all 10 balls in the health and just do one. And so I was trying to figure out like which one I wanted to do. There's so many, like which one do you start with, right? If I don't drink water, I'm going to drown, right? But I've been surviving, so let's just pick one. So I picked to close my exercise ring. And I didn't even dedicate like a real actual SMART goal of how many. I didn't like follow my own
rule.
And I just said I want to close my exercise ring. And I kept thinking, well, there's only one way to close the ring, is to actually, if you have an iPhone, then you have like a goal of how many minutes to close your ring. And mine is 30, because that just seems right. And so I'm like, okay, well, you have to exercise for 30 minutes in order to close the ring, consecutive, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I could go walking, and that was super boring. And then I was like, you know what, I want to join the gym. And it was so funny because the gym wasn't even like an action step, because I never actually like fleshed that goal out all the way. But I thought it was really funny because I actually end up making more progress on that goal alone, just because I changed my mindset about the goal.
How to attack it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, yay, Amber, thank you. You inspired me. Because I actually I heard myself in that recording. I was like, I'm going to change my goal. You just gave me an idea. And I remember saying that. And I remember, writing it down in my journal, right then. I was like, I'm going to write this down. I don't want to forget it. And then, I turned around and changed my goal. And it made a big impact. So I've, like you said, we started going to the gym. Well, the funny thing is, just like I said, I prophesized myself, I guess, because you go to the gym, you're going to be thirsty because you're working out. So you drink more. Then you're tired. So
you go to bed earlier. And then all of a sudden, all these other things start happening. Like if I'm going to work out, I'm not going to eat a hamburger. Yeah. So then I started making better choices. And you're not snacking it in bedtime because you're going to bed.
I know. I'm not staying up till 2 a.m. So I don't need that popcorn, And I was like,
popcorn.
wow, I know. See? So, like, I feel like because I just took that one step.
Yeah.
And once I started juggling the one thing, the other things kind of fell into place. And I was like, wow, I need to stop overthinking things. And I think that's really what we came to conclusion in our episode in June, was that we had been overthinking things in the previous year and this year because we felt like we were stuck in our task lists and checking off the daily stuff. We're just kind of getting in like a rut and taking a pause, changing course, rethinking, looking at the other angles of the box. We were able to get out of like a little bit of a rut. Am I going to hit all my goals this year? Heck no. I think I've only read 26 books this year. But I look back and I'm like, but I read 26 books. So I'm not mad at myself at all.
Right.
And that actually brings me to my other goal that I mentioned that I was struggling with was my easiest goal. And I thought it was really funny because back in June, I was really struggling to complete this one goal. It was the easiest one that I had. It's a one and done kind of thing. Just do it, get it over with. And I was having a hard time starting, and it was reading a nonfiction book. I was making all these tasks instead of just picking up a book and reading it. I was making all of these, like, sit down and write a list of all the nonfiction books that I want to read. Why am I making these invisible barriers instead of just doing it?
It's a procrastination
It really
technique.
was.
It
And I
is.
realized, okay, sometimes creating an action list is a procrastination to actually doing the goal. And the time, and that was something I recognized then, and I still stand firm in that. Like, you can sit and plan and plan and plan, but you could have spent the time doing too.
Well, and
you have to
that
be careful.
That comes
Yeah,
back to that whole
exactly.
thing of manifesting too, because people talk about manifesting, and it's not enough to just wish
Think
for
about
what it or think
manifesting.
about it. You actually have to take the action. So manifesting does work, but you have to believe that it works, but you also have to take the
action
actions
when the opportunity arises.
Right. Yeah. And so that's the thing. And we were, I think in a lot of those cases, and me as well, we're ignoring the opportunities. One of my goals, like I was talking about the gym, one of my goals was to lose weight. And I fleshed out all these steps. And one of the steps was to find an exercise partner and come up with an exercise plan. And I felt stuck in that part because I couldn't find somebody to exercise with. And therefore, I couldn't come up with an exercise plan because I didn't know what the person I would exercise with was going to want to do, right? That's my logic
You
there.
made a condition.
I made a condition.
It was
Yes.
dependent on someone else so that it took some
Right.
of the burden off.
Well,
of-
and I know what a lot of it is. It's because I need that accountability of having a workout partner, and I know what works for me, because if it's just me, if I'm only dependent on my own motivation to get up and go work out, I won't. I will stay in bed. I will sleep a little bit later. I will drink an extra cup of coffee. I will do something else, because my day is full. I have so many tasks to get done that they can't all get done in a day. And so I will fill all of that available time with whatever I can cram into it. And therefore, if I don't have that accountability partner, someone who is depending on me to go with them to work out, then I will not do it, because there's X, Y, and Z sitting over here that also need to be done. And something in my brain says they're more important, and I will do that. And so,
That's my biggest problem right there.
right. And
Maybe I should start going to the gym with y'all.
well, and that was the thing. So, and we started talking about our goal, and I don't even remember how it came up. It might have been from that episode, or it might have been something else, but Kristen decided that she and Travis were going to go sign up to the gym that they used to belong to. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, Well, how much is that? How, because I started thinking, well, if I have somebody to go with, I will go do it. And so sure enough, I did. And so for several months now, we've been going, I don't go as often as you guys go, but my goal was to do it, 3 times a week or whatever. And I have that accountability because I know I'm going to the same class that you are. So I know you're expecting me to be there. I will go there.
Right.
So it just works.
And even if I don't go, you're going in their little app and reserving a spot in that class.
So
the
then
instructor's expecting you, and now there's other people in the class that recognize you. They're expecting you there too.
Yes, and so there's that accountability of going, and that helped, and it just got me over that hump of, and like I said, it was kind of a work around, looking at it from a different direction, because I was stuck there. But then the opportunity came. You mentioned the gym, and I used that opportunity to make that progress. You have to take that action. You can't just wish the manifestation. You have to take the action. And I wasn't taking the action. But when I saw an opportunity, I moved into it. So, and sometimes that's what it takes. And sometimes you have to put those goals, one goal on hold to work on another goal. If you're not making progress on a goal, don't just keep pushing. Don't just keep pushing. Right. Sometimes you need to step back from it a little bit and move on to another goal, which is what I did with the reorganization.
And sometimes it doesn't always happen the way you expect it to. I think you have to lower your expectations too on how you achieve the goal, because that's the way manifesting works too. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it kind of like bring me back to how I achieved that goal. That was my hardest one. Was I was setting this barrier of, I'm going to pick up this book and read a nonfiction book. And my goal was in my learning category. I just wanted to include nonfiction because all I do is read, romance novels and sci-fi. So I wanted to add something that would enhance my life. But my expectation was that you have to read a book. Well, I finally surrendered and allowed myself grace to listen to a book.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was like, well, let me try out, Audible. And I went on Audible and I used one of my free credits. And I was like, well, let me check out this book, Atomic Habits. That looks really good. And which is really funny because I'm like trying to meet a goal by reading a book about goals. I'm like, God, I'm such a paradox, right? So I listened to Atomic Habits, and I am going to accept that, because although my eyes did not scroll over letters to read it, I did gain a lot of insight from listening to this book. And it's talking about breaking your goal up into, or, making a new habit, which is what a goal is. You want to make a new habit, breaking a habit into smaller pieces. And he talked about the strategies involved. And that was a really good book. I highly recommend listening or reading it. If that's something that you're interested in. I've been applying that with my employees at work whenever I do coaching and guiding training. I've been using some of those methods to, teach them how to do personal development. So we'll link that in the Heard It on a Podcast.
I wanted to add to that, because you're talking about breaking it up, and you look at this book. I got to read a nonfiction book. Well, you don't have to read a book. You have to read a page over and over and over again. Yeah. So sometimes that is the key to that also, is don't look at it as I have to read a book. Look at it as I can read a page.
Honestly, that wasn't
every day.
Even the issue. I don't have that problem. My issue was picking a book and committing to one book.
Oh, yeah.
because I said I just want to at least read one, and I was like, so many books.
There's so many options, right?
I want to pick the right one, and that was the other barrier. I gave myself permission to pick up a book and listen to it. I guess I didn't feel as emotionally attached with how much effort you put into it when you listen to it.
Okay.
So I said, well, if I listen to it and I don't like it, then I give myself permission to find another one.
Right.
Well, and then I think if I listened to like 10 books and I got halfway through all 10 of them at the end of the year,
that would count. Hello.
Yeah. I need to learn to give myself grace and not be such a perfectionist.
Well,
right?
and that, you know, you're talking about that too. You got to pick the right book because you're only going to read one book. Well, who says you can only read one book? You know, you could just pick a book, and if you don't like that book, put it away and read another one, like you said. Or you could read that book and then, oh, I think I'm going to read another book. So it doesn't have to be the perfect book. It just has to be a book that meets the qualifications. The qualifications were that it be nonfiction.
Yeah.
And then it be of some help or learning or whatever. And like I said, you don't have to read the whole book in one setting. You break it up into smaller pieces.
Yeah.
If I read a page every day for a year, that's 365 pages. That's a book. So, or more.
That's a really good point, too. I mean, even if the verbiage that I used in setting my goal, it's not the end all be all. At the end of the year, if you felt like you hit the goal, you hit the goal.
Right.
And that's why I'm completely happy with myself, even though I only achieved 20 some odd books that I've read, you know.
Well, and goals aren't carved in stone.
That I didn't read 50.
Goals aren't carved in stone. Goals, and that's one of the reasons why we reassess our goals mid-year and or multiple times through the year and then again at the end of the year and set new goals, because sometimes our goals need to change because they're either not achievable or they're not relevant anymore, or they just need to be adjusted. You know, there's a lot of different reasons for that. You know, one of my goals was to lose weight. Well, I didn't lose as much weight as I wanted to, but I'm still losing weight. So that goal is still there. But sometimes, you know, like one of my long-term goals with my husband and I were to go to Thailand, and that goal is maybe not an option right now. So it gets set aside or it gets reworked in a different way. Like your goal with the reading the books, you set a certain goal of number of books you wanted to read, but halfway through the year, you realized, I don't think I'm going to make that goal. So I'm going to readjust that goal to be something that I can accomplish. That way, when I do accomplish that goal, I will still have that sense of accomplishment. And it's not a cop-out. It's being real.
It's not quitting. Yeah.
It's not quitting. It's not giving up. It's reassessing and making something that's more realistic for where you are in your life right now. And that happens to me a lot too, because in the course of a year, a lot of things can change. My situation has definitely changed multiple times throughout the year. And so I have had to reassess those goals. Okay, I didn't get my tax stuff done by April 15th, so I filed an extension. So, you know, then I have until October to, you know, and then you can, you know, you're working, it doesn't mean that you failed at your goal. It means that you've adjusted your goal. So don't look at it as a pass-fail thing. It's definitely, there's a spectrum there. There's room for improvement. And that's the way I choose to see it. I've improved my goals. And I did. Mid-year, I kind of went back through and adjusted some of those goals.
I rewrote how they were written.
How they were written, yes. Yeah. I did too. And so that was a good thing. I think that was a good thing. What about you? Did you adjust any of your expectations on your goals?
Definitely. I had like this hard and fast goal that you know, I was just going to change the way like you were talking about lifestyle or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
just like change it overnight, but it's just a slow progress. You get I had those lifestyle changes a couple of years ago, and I was going and I was going, and then life happens, and then you go back to your old habits,
Mm-hmm.
and then, like, to change back, it's just a slow change to go back. It's like, especially at the point that I am in my life, that it's easier to make slower
Yeah.
changes than it is to just make hard and fast, um, quick decision changes because, just with everything going on mentally, sometimes you just have to go slowly.
Well, and I think that's absolutely a great point, because sometimes changing too much too fast is a surefire way to fail at a goal. You can't quit drinking, quit smoking, start exercising, and go on a diet at the same time. You can't. It is
No,
not possible.
it's
You will not
just
do
one
it.
of those things, like over the summer, like when we were doing this podcast or whatever, my friend Stacy, I had like this list of things that I needed to get done, and one of them was join a gym,
Mm-hmm.
just like y'all, and everything like that. And Stacy said to me, she said, "Girl, you need to slow down because you have too many irons in the fire right
Yeah,
now."
yeah, and that's not good either, because if you're overworking yourself, then you're
And
not really committed to the things you are doing. You're not giving 100% to those, and
yeah,
you
You
tend to
burn
burn the
out.
candle at both ends, and you burn out. So, and like you were talking about small changes. Several years ago, I was diagnosed with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and cancer at the same time. Boom. And it was really hard, because my doctor is like, you need to make all these changes. And it was really hard to make those changes all, cold turkey, basically.
yeah,
But I did find that by just making small changes a little at a time over the course of time, those small changes kind of snowballed
Yeah.
into other
mm-hmm,
changes. So I replaced all of my white rice with brown rice. That was the
mm-hmm,
first change I did, because brown rice is lower glycemic, and so it's a little bit healthier. And I cut the portion size of like my rice down, and now it's like second nature to me. I don't even like white rice anymore, but
mm-hmm.
I didn't try to change everything. I didn't cut out all the other things that I did. Now I did start doing a lot more sugar free, so I did swap my sodas for a sugar free soda,
Yeah,
but I didn't change a whole bunch of things all at the same time.
Mhm.
I just slowly chose one or two things to change, and I worked at it until I was comfortable with those changes, and then I moved on to the next one. And so now, there's a lot of things I've changed as far as my eating habits that are very different than what I did then, but I didn't change it all at once. It was, and maybe my doctor would say that's not the best way to do it, but that was the way for it to stick for me.
yeah,
If I had made all those changes all at once, I would have rebelled and
mm-hmm.
gone out and eaten the wrong thing. And I did.
And
I
that's
tried
what so
that
many
at
people
first.
do. Yeah,
I did that at first. She was like, you can only have this, and you can only have this, and you can only have this. And I tried that. And, like every week I was trying to find something to cheat with, And so I found that when I quit being so absolute about everything and let it be a little more gray and only changed a few things at a time, then it was easier to manage. And like I say, I totally don't mind brown rice. I like brown rice now. So, I'd rather have that.
That's basically what the Atomic Habits, one of
Mhm.
the things that he talked
Mhm.
about is just those little changes. And one of the other things that he mentioned was like habit stacking. So,
Oh, yeah.
same thing
Mhm.
with the snowballing, like I was talking about earlier, you go to the gym and then you're like, well, I got to bring water. So then you start drinking water while you work out. So now that's like,
You've changed two habits.
If I
right
actually track, and I actually have like been kind of going back and like doing the daily tracking, I'm like, wow, every day that I drink and hit my water goal are the days that I work out. So it's like pretty. Now I need to focus on drinking water when I'm not working out.
Right.
And so that's kind of like a new little goal, a mini side quest, you know.
Right. And you talk about the habit stacking. A lot of those things happen for me too. I changed my morning routines to be a little more focused, and I added in some of the things that I wanted to do was more meditation, some yoga, stretching, things like that, and more reading of nonfiction, different things. And so I took. Kristen had talked about the savers from what's his name?
Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning.
Gosh, what is
Elton?
his name?
Elrod.
Elron.
What's his name?
His name is Hal Elrod, and the book is called The Miracle Morning, the not so obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m.
Yeah. And what it is he has these series, and I haven't even read the book. Okay. I just took Kristen's habit that she did some habit stacking there, where he added these different little components to your morning routine. And we've talked about that on several other episodes. And so I started adding some of those things that I wanted to do into that morning routine. And then they just became part of my regular morning routine. That made it easier to make those changes because they were done together with something else I was already doing. And so that worked really well, I thought. So it's another way to look at some of those things. Yeah.
So before we move on to the next topic that I wanted to hit up, I guess I just wanted to like check in with y'all because we kind of talked about, reflecting on this past year and how we did with our goals. Have you already started thinking about what you want to do for next year's goals?
I think a lot of mine will probably be very similar to the ones I have this year.
Like continuation of what
a continuation, mm-hmm. Yes. Maybe a little more refined on some of them. My goals, and I don't know how to phrase this, but they're all. I have different categories of my life.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that in the last episode, too.
Yeah, the areas of my life. Categories. And so there are certain standards or levels of performance or whatever that I want to hit in those areas. And so my goals will be centered around those. So I will still have the weight loss goal until I meet that weight loss goal. Mm-hmm. It may change a little bit or whatever. And some of my goals are just ongoing things like continuing my spiritual work, continuing my shadow work, taking some me time on a regular basis because I'm really bad about not dedicating that. Some different things like that. So a lot of my goals will be very similar.
What about you, Amber? You are like a few days into getting married. Have you guys set like goals
together
or separately?
Yes. One of our one of my goals for the coming up year is that I want to like move into a new phase of my life. I'm still trying to figure out, I guess, the married phase, but I'm still trying to figure out what that phase is going to be, whether I complete my master's or start a business.
Next big project.
Yeah, next big thing in my life. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Jason and I are also talking about maybe not this coming year, but adopting children.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm at the growing up, I guess, phase of life where I want to, like, I've been like floating around, getting things together, and now I'm ready to explode. Not really, but
I was like, you're putting your final coat of varnish on.
yeah. So I'm ready for the next step, whatever that is. I'm not gonna like throw it out there just yet, but I've got some things cooking that I wanna accomplish this coming year.
Right on. All right. Well, I know that you guys will always know that we will have more episodes where we talk about goals.
Always.
So I wanted to make sure we had enough time to talk about this other awesome thing that we're doing. So I wanted to kind of give you guys some insight on some of the other episodes that we have planned for next year. Because, we do kind of sit down and brainstorm what we want to talk about. And sometimes we strategically place them in certain parts of the year for the season. And I thought it would be kind of fun to just give you guys some insight on what you can look forward to in 2023.
2024.
Oh my gosh, 2024. Yeah. And also, a lot of these are not ones that just like say, bam, they're goals. We're talking about goals, but they are related. So, bucket list for the new year. I mean, that is technically a goal list. Overcoming fear. We're going to be talking about Brené Brown.
Yes. The Rising Strong book. I am currently reading Brené Brown's Rising Strong. And it's, I think that'll be a great one to talk about on the podcast.
Awesome. And then we have, like Amber was talking about, furthering your education.
Yes.
We have Gardner's 7 Intelligences.
Yes.
And successful interviewing and boundaries.
That's an important one.
Then, last but not least, Modern Musings has a major goal-setting project that we wanted to talk about. You know that we've been talking about goals in all 3 seasons, and that was really like
one of our
first things. We talked about holidays for like 6 months, and then we started talking about goals. It felt like 6 months, but like the first like 3 episodes were about the holidays.
Sure.
Yeah. But then we started
talking about goals. We did right away. So yeah.
So we are very passionate about that. And it's not just about like setting a goal. It's about continuing who you are and the process of being you.
Your growth and manifesting the best life that you can.
And so we're actually looking for some beta testers. We have been putting into a little bit of labor of love for a goal-setting workbook, and we're looking for some of our dedicated listeners that would like to be beta testers for us. What we're seeking is someone who's able to connect on like a video call in a group kind of roundtable session to discuss
frequently, or I'll say frequently, like at least once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
Over the course of the next year, because we're wanting to release this product probably in advance of 2025. So what we're looking is someone who's willing to commit to a 9 to 12 month beta testing.
But
of this
it won't
product.
be like where you have to go, all the time.
No.
We just want to connect with you and hear your thoughts.
Yes, we'll
you
have
to
the
go
product.
through
You
this
will
book.
have the product in front of you, and use the product.
You get
and
to
then
play along with us.
You
Yeah.
play with us, yeah. And so then we'll have a check in like once a month, or we'll also be available for questions if you have questions along the way or whatever. But we would have a check in once a month to see how it's going.
Of course, that's why I mentioned that, because it is, of course, serious inquiries. because we're very serious and passionate about this, and we're looking for other people that are also passionate about goal setting or wanting a different approach to setting your goals. Maybe you've tried Cultivate What Matters. Maybe you've tried SMART goals. Maybe you've tried Atomic Habits or Miracle Morning or some other methods. Maybe you've tried just manifesting with, some magazine cutouts, and you want to add some extra ways to tackle your goal. So if you are interested in checking it out, you can email us at info@modernmusings.net. That's info at modernmusings.net. And we'll also have that available on the Heard It On a Podcast. So you can go to modernmusings.net and click on the link there.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for in that email is a brief answer. Tell us why you think you would be a good candidate to be a beta tester for us. What would be interesting to you for that? What you could benefit, what the mutual benefit could be for you to be a beta tester for us.
Why you think you would be a good candidate, and what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah.
And what experience you've had with goal setting. If you've used any other systems or anything, which is not a prerequisite, but just tell us if you have. And we're looking for 8 to 10 testers to assist us with this.
So the quicker you can send that in to us, the more likely you'll be able to be a beta tester also, because those spots are going to go quick.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I am really looking forward to sharing more about the project with everyone on future podcasts and continue our goals into next year. And what are we talking about next week?
Next week, we are talking about Hallmark movies, like the Christmas Hallmark movies, because, we're heading into the Christmas.
I believe you labeled that one Hallmark or no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a yes or no. We're going to talk about whether you like those Hallmark movies or not, or Lifetime movies. Those kind of fall into that same category. So we'll talk about that next week.
Cheesy Christmas movies.
Cheesy Christmas movies. Yes, cheesy Christmas movies.
Netflix has started.
Oh, all the services have them, all of them. So
Hulu.
we'll talk about those. So, yeah.
Looking forward to it. You know my answer.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.